Hi everyone, welcome to week 2. My name is Dr. Michelle Ford. I'm an assistant professor here at SUNY Empire State College. It's great to be with you all. So I thought to settle ourselves into the week and really get a sense of the landscape, we should do some basic definitions, and then those definitions will help us move forward through our lessons for week 2. So the first is to define boundaryless careers. The second is to define protean careers. And then we're going to take a look at boundaryless careers and more traditional careers. And you'll have more of a sense of what I mean after I introduce you to my Uncle Pete. It might be interesting to think about these definitions through his story. So he is now 75, has been retired for about 10 years. He worked for a major computing company his entire career. He started a few years out of college, and he remained with that company for the entirety of his career. He worked his way up the career ladder to middle management, but really the organization was the deciding factor. So he didn't decide when he made those jumps and moves, the organization did. And just sort of by way of context, you should also know that he lived in the same house for 40 years, he had the same friends for 40 years, he played golf with the same people for 40 years, and really this was an environment that was very stable and very bound. You get the idea. I'm sure a lot of you know people like my Uncle Pete. I'm sure a lot of you know people like his grandson Tony too. Tony, to juxtapose Tony's life, he is now in his late 20s. Tony was fortunate enough to get a job with the state as an office manager, but he decided not long into that position that there were a few things that he didn't like about it. The first thing, he didn't like the idea of being attached to a desk for 7 or 8 or more hours a day. And secondly, he was a little concerned about budget cuts. He heard that perhaps his division wouldn't be funded moving forward. So there were two pieces. The job didn't fit his lifestyle, and he also didn't like the fact that it wasn't as stable as he thought. So Tony picked up and moved halfway across the country to take a job teaching fly fishing. He makes less money, and some would argue that it's less stable. However, he's a lot happier and has plans to develop and find his own tour company. That second piece will come back around as we move forward. But the two stories illustrate different ways of thinking about your career. My Uncle Pete's career was very much managed by the organization. His career path was static. And on the other hand, his grandson, Tony, he made very active career choices based on his personal values and also on his reading of the environment, and that he didn't have to wait for the environment to happen to him. He could actually switch jobs and employers to better match his interests, his abilities, and the way he wanted to live his life. That, Tony's attitude, is an example of boundaryless careers. It's not being managed or bound by a single employer or a single occupation. And his attitude is what researchers call a protean career attitude. It's managed by the person, not the organization. Douglas Hall, among other researchers, talks about this as being a more whole life perspective than a career bound by an organization. Individuals with protean career attitudes are more likely to use their own values and have a self-directed attitude towards career management. That self-directed piece is very important for our time together and how we're thinking about changing our mindset towards career management. So why is all this important? First of all, the average person has approximately 7 to 10 jobs throughout his lifetime. And to be able to not only navigate between those jobs, between occupations, to see opportunities on the horizon, you really need to be the director of your own career. The question is, what are the skills? What are the abilities? What do you need to manage your own career? There's a lot of career information out there. How do you know what to pay attention to, what skills to develop? So here's what we've reviewed so far. We've defined boundaryless careers. We've defined protean careers. We've compared and contrasted that kind of protean or boundaryless career with a more traditional career path. And then next we'll talk about characteristics of working environments these days, and these definitions will definitely come into play. Thanks. See you soon.